Felsinger?
No.
Did you follow me there? Do you know who did?
I waited for you to come back at the girls'
Whoever
place.
killed Felsinger followed me there.
Several notable noir films are set in San Francisco. Some start there and end up somewhere else. Others just pass through.
It's a good place. New place.
More often than not, setting lingers in the background. The 1950 film Woman on the Run makes me wonder why more mid-century crime movies weren't actually filmed in San Francisco. The city's distinctly urban, simultaneously old and modern, photogenic, yet not too idyllic to ward off a thriving illicit underworld. Director Norman Foster shot on location whenever he could, while cinematographer and SF native Hal Moore shaped the striking visuals of a city before its eventual towering transformation. Set in an unconventional locale, it helps that Woman on the Run doesn't follow a stereotypical noir blueprint, however loosely that category is defined.
Is that right, Inspector? Sure, we know him well.
The movie is based on the short story, Man on the Run, by Sylvia Tate, where the anticipated femme fatale is swapped out for a sleazy rag reporter.
Did you get a look at the murderer?
No.
What's his wife like? Any filth?
Lay off the tabloid sex stuff like it.
As a result, screenwriter Russ Hunter trades the typical crime fiction-inspired tough guy dialogue for quick-witted insults.
I won't be working for the graphic anymore. Where's your husband, Mrs. Johnson?
I don't know.
Did he see the killer?
I don't know.
Should we dance?
Why don't you drop dead?
The film's title also circumvents our expectations. Protagonist Eleanor is actually on the chase, and her pace is more of an indifferent trudge than a run. Ann Sheridan as lead was already a seasoned screen veteran whose roles often showcased her versatility. Here, the actor relies on subtle cues to reveal emotions beneath her character's hardened facade.
He saw it happen. He's right over here. Sorry I had to get you out of bed, Mrs. Johnson. But after all, we had to make sure that he had a wife. Where is he? He took a powder. Sergeant, pick up Johnson. The idiot will get himself killed.
Eleanor's fugitive husband, Frank, played by Ross Elliott, is neither depraved nor personally entangled in villainy.
Will you go call Reardon?
Moreover, he doesn't even need to run.
Won't be any next time.
Yeah, but suppose you don't get a conviction, then what? Do I have to spend the rest of my life with police protection? Or wind up on a sidewalk like him?
What are you worried about? He missed, didn't he?
Frank easily eludes police by ducking around a brick staircase. Audiences knew that fleeing the relatively small peninsula was as unlikely as escaping Alcatraz, so we don't expect a chase scene.
I want everybody. No excuses, no lawyers. I want everybody. Will do. See?
The premise of the film No Escape is implicit in its title.
Because you'll never get away. Not once the police spring the trap. Set the watch on the two bridges. The Golden Gate. The Bay Bridge.
There may be nowhere to go, but finding someone is a different story. Urban centers that constrict mobility in a noir universe can also be exploited as an advantage to avoid capture. The plethora of tightly nested buildings and stairwells in San Francisco create a complex labyrinth of hiding spots. The plausibility of a 5'11" everyman successfully evading law enforcement and a loose murderer in the city is so unwavering that we do not physically see Frank again until the end of the film. Conversely, San Francisco is deceptively dense. Its downtown, which serves as a financial center for the entire Bay Area, dwarfs roughly 47 miles of scant city space. In New York or Chicago, a fugitive could conceivably walk along heavily populated thoroughfares without being recognized. In Woman on the Run, anonymity is replaced with familiarity. Humphrey Bogart's character Vincent in Dark Passage can't even catch a short ride without his cab driver raising a brow of suspicion.
So you slugged her.
Similarly, we know that it's futile to hide in plain sight. So Frank instead utilizes his deep network of friends to conceal his location and clandestinely communicate with Eleanor. Woman on the Run displays many visual characteristics associated with dark crime dramas of the 1940s and 50s. Notably, German expressionist-inspired emphasis of shadows and skewed vertical lines that had become black and white film noir trademarks. However, the filmmakers did not set out to distort the landscape of San Francisco to invoke a subjective emotive experience. Rather, they created a representational impression firmly grounded in cinematic realism. Ship masts and bridges punctuate coastlines with intricate patterns to elicit a sense of disorientation. Elaborately constructed warp sets can be costly when shot on location, especially when the city surrounded by sea has a tendency to grow upward instead of outward. Fortunately, the region's idiosyncratic architecture naturally lends itself to an expressionist aesthetic. At times, Woman on the Run pays direct tribute to German silent horror films of the 1920s. A Gothic revival church tilts towards the center of the screen when the camera points upward. This is the first photographic hint that something is askew with the persistently obnoxious reporter Leggett. Alternating Dutch angles intermittently command the screen, not to signify inner emotions, but to stress bouts of pending or imminent danger.
What's your hurry, Mrs. Johnson?
Much of the lighting in Woman on the Run is naturalistic within the context of its urban setting. That is, characters at night are sometimes barely visible from distant street lamps, as you would expect in real life. Likewise, interiors illuminated by overhead incandescent fixtures either spill out of windows or draw harsh contrasts on characters' faces. Unforgiving reflections from Mole Richardson Fresnel lights suggest that the filmmakers did not completely rely on household lamps or natural city ambiance. Set lighting is both deliberate and employed in a manner that reinforces reality rather than stray from it. Countering dark brooding scenes, cinematographer Hal Moore switches to a documentary style while we take a tourist stroll through the city.
But he signed it, Eleanor's husband. Without telling him, I entered in the contest they were having here at the art gallery. The oil by Eleanor's husband won first prize, $500.
Hills define the topography of San Francisco. They're so ubiquitous that almost every street and road is built on an angle. Waves and folds of earth, capped with a mixture of modern and ornate Queen Anne buildings, create a jagged skyline that instills a sense of peril on screen. Compared to the old Bunker Hill subdivision of Los Angeles, San Francisco offers an entire city of deteriorating steep hillside Victorian houses to perpetuate the noir look. Early scenes seamlessly shift cities from Nob Hill towards the Bay Bridge to Bunker Hill atop Hill Street Tunnel in L.A.
All full of goo and gore and everything. Hey!
These former monuments of excess may connote moral decay to some, but we should not confuse disrepair with dystopia. San Francisco had already experienced several boom and bust cycles by the film's 1950 release. To people on fixed incomes or recent immigrants, compromised places on screen can represent hope in real life. Screenwriter Alan Campbell centered Woman on the Run somewhere between San Francisco's Nob Hill and Chinatown neighborhoods. And to some degree, the married couple's local haunts are reflective of the region's ethnically diverse population.
Who's this?
Oh, some dance team over in...
Eleanor and Leggett's quest to meet Frank's numerous acquaintances is simultaneously a journey through the artist's eclectic experiences.
Retired ferryboat captain who does sand sculptures.
While the film is unlikely to draw accolades for enlightened views of representation, a nightclub entertainer changes into street clothes to reveal a person behind the costume. At least for a few fleeting moments, Sam, played by SF native Victor Sen Young, stands in contrast to that of a miscast Japanese-American conspirator in Across the Pacific, especially in context of the actor's World War II service in the U.S. Army Air Forces. The film further grounds itself in realism by emphasizing blue-collar facets of the city before corporate behemoths erected a modernist Stonehenge surrounding the Embarcadero. Frank's network of friends and art subjects are all presented in the context of their respective workplaces.
Frank painted this for me about 6 months ago. It was on St. Patrick's Day.
I suspect that even Leggett still frets over tabloid story deadlines between murders. And the ones who idle industriously toil towards intoxication during daytime work hours. How fitting that deceptively titled Woman on the Run ultimately subverts our expectations of film noir tropes.
As ordered, delivered.
A hapless drifter susceptible to moral corruption turns out to be a sensitive painter trying to recapture the innocence of youth. And the cynical protagonist eventually embraces selfless devotion with her once estranged husband. Hard-boiled plot pieces slowly evaporate until we are left with an unmistakable love story that can only be set in the city by the bay. In a nod to distant horror influences, director Norman Foster lets the audience know that they haven't been hoodwinked into a conventional happy ending. Laughing Sal reminds us that a routine dog walk can spiral into a nightmare of madness just as easily as it can lead to a journey of marital bliss.